Every Christian knows what a good Christian is supposed to look like. The problem is that knowing and living are two very different things. And some of the most spiritually damaging habits in the modern church are not practiced by obviously bad people. They are practiced by sincere, church-attending, Bible verse-sharing believers who have never stopped to examine whether what they are doing actually lines up with what they claim to believe. These are not dramatic sins. They are quiet, normalized, deeply embedded patterns that most Christians carry for years without ever being challenged on them. In this video, we will expose 5 habits that no Christian should ever have, but that most Christians practice without even realizing it. Stay until the end, because the 5th habit is the most widespread and the most spiritually costly of all. Tell us in the comments what country you are watching from, and let's get into it. There is a habit so common in Christian culture that it has been rebranded as a virtue, and that rebranding is one of the most spiritually dangerous things that has ever happened in the modern church. It is the habit of avoiding every difficult conversation in the name of keeping the peace. The Christian who never confronts a friend living in obvious sin because they do not want to damage the relationship. The spouse who never addresses a real problem because they tell themselves they are being patient. The church member who sees something wrong in leadership and says nothing because they convince themselves that God will handle it. What looks like peace is actually cowardice dressed in spiritual language, and it produces not peace, but the slow accumulation of unaddressed problems that eventually become impossible to ignore. Matthew 18:15 does not give believers the option of silence when a brother sins against them. It gives them a command. Go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. Not post about it, not tell someone else, not wait and hope it resolves itself. Go. The habit of conflict avoidance is not a personality type that God accommodates. It is a pattern of disobedience disguised as gentleness. And the people most damaged by it are not the ones being avoided. They are the ones doing the avoiding, who spend years carrying the weight of things that a single honest conversation could have resolved. But as damaging as this first habit is, the second one is even more widespread because it has been normalized by the very structure of modern church culture itself. Walk into almost any large church on a Sunday morning and you will find the same dynamic operating at every level. A small group of exhausted people serving a large group of comfortable consumers. The servers arrive early, stay late, give generously, and pour themselves out week after week. The consumers arrive, receive what is offered, evaluate the quality of the experience, and leave with no sense that any of it required anything from them. And the consumers are not bad people. They are simply people who have been formed by a church culture that has spent decades competing for their attendance by making church as easy and as comfortable as possible. When church becomes a service to be received rather than a community to be contributed to, the consumer habit becomes almost inevitable. Romans 12:4-6 describes the church as a body where every member has a different function, not a stage where some perform and others watch. 1 Corinthians 12:7 is explicit. The manifestation of the Spirit is given to each person for the common good. Not for their own enjoyment, not for their personal spiritual experience, for the common good. A Christian who has attended church for years without ever genuinely asking what they have to contribute, what gift, what time, what resource, what presence, has been consuming something they were designed to give. And the third habit on our list is one that most Christians genuinely believe they have overcome, until it is tested by a specific person in a specific situation that makes the truth impossible to deny. Ask most Christians whether they practice forgiveness, and they will say yes, and they will genuinely believe it. But the forgiveness most Christians practice is not the forgiveness the Bible describes. It is a conditional, selective, performance-based version of forgiveness that releases people who apologize sincerely, who show sufficient remorse and who are easy to forgive, while quietly maintaining a different standard for the people whose offense was too serious, whose apology was insufficient, or who have not yet shown any sign of changing. And that selective forgiveness feels completely justified from the inside because the reasons for withholding it are usually real. The offense was genuine. The hurt was deep. The other person has not earned release. But Matthew 6:14-15 does not make forgiveness conditional on the other person's response. Jesus connects God's forgiveness of believers directly to their forgiveness of others, with no exception for cases where the offense was serious or the apology was absent. Ephesians 4:32 instructs believers to forgive one another, just as God in Christ forgave them. And God's forgiveness was extended while humanity was still actively hostile, with no apology offered and no remorse shown. The standard is not forgive when they deserve it. The standard is forgive because you were forgiven when you did not deserve it. And the Christian who has not confronted their own selective forgiveness has almost certainly not yet understood the full weight of what was forgiven on their behalf. And that leads directly to the fourth habit, which reveals what a Christian actually believes about God far more honestly than anything they say about Him. There is a test that reveals the genuine state of a person's prayer life more accurately than any survey or self-assessment. And that test is simply to observe when they pray. For most Christians, prayer is the last option rather than the first response. They exhaust every human resource available, try every strategy they can think of, consult every person whose opinion they trust, and when nothing works and there is genuinely nothing left to try, they pray. And they often describe this moment with genuine spiritual feeling, as though the desperation of having run out of options has finally produced the authentic faith that was unavailable when other options existed. But what this pattern actually reveals is a functional belief system in which God is the backup plan rather than the primary source, where prayer is the spiritual emergency number rather than the ongoing conversation of a genuine relationship. Philippians 4:6 does not instruct believers to pray when all else fails. It instructs them to present everything to God with thanksgiving in every situation, as the first and consistent response to every need and every circumstance. The Thessalonians 5:17 reduces the instruction to 3 words: pray without ceasing. Not pray when desperate, not pray when the situation is serious enough to warrant divine intervention. Pray without ceasing, meaning that prayer is the continuous orientation of a life directed toward God, not the emergency protocol of a life that has temporarily run out of better options. The Christian who only prays when they are desperate has revealed something about what they actually believe. And it is not what they would say if asked. And the fifth and final habit is the one that makes all the others possible, because it is the foundation on which every form of spiritual dishonesty is built. The most spiritually damaging habit on this list is the one that looks the most normal from the outside. Because from the outside, it looks exactly like genuine Christianity. It is the habit of being a completely different person, depending on who is watching. The Christian who is generous, patient, kind, and spiritually engaged at church, and privately selfish, harsh, dishonest, and spiritually absent the rest of the week. The believer who speaks about faith with genuine conviction in Christian company and never mentions God in any other context. The person whose character on Sunday has essentially no connection to their character on Tuesday. This double life does not require dramatic hypocrisy. It simply requires the gradual compartmentalization of faith into the spaces where it is socially rewarded, while allowing everything else to operate on completely different terms. Luke 16:10 identifies the connection between small and large faithfulness. Whoever is faithful in very little is also faithful in much, and whoever is dishonest in very little is also dishonest in much. The character that appears only in church environments and disappears in all others was never genuine character. it was performance. Galatians 2:20 describes the foundation of genuine Christian identity as Christ who lives in me, not Christ who visits me on Sundays. A faith that is only visible when others are watching is not a faith that has actually taken root in the heart. It is a reputation maintained for social reasons, and it is the most common, most normalized, and most spiritually costly habit that Christians refuse to examine honestly. Because the moment they examine it honestly, everything else has to change. These 5 habits are not the marks of people who have rejected Christianity. They are the marks of people who have accepted a version of Christianity that never required them to change where it was most costly. The good news is that recognizing them is the beginning of genuine transformation. And genuine transformation is exactly what the gospel actually promises. Which of these 5 habits hit closest to home for you today? Comment below and tell us what country you are watching from. If this video was valuable to you, please like it, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share it with someone who needs to hear this truth. We have more honest and powerful content coming, and you do not want to miss what is next. May God give you the courage to examine every habit honestly and the grace to change the ones that need to go.